Hi everybody, I've got something pretty cool for you today. We are here just outside of Detroit, inside of Bollinger Motors, checking out the new all-electric B1 and B2, and they're right in here. Let's go see. So behind me here is the Bollinger B2, and then right over there you have the B1. Now we initially saw these vehicles over 2 years ago, but now these ones that sit right here, these are production ready. So in this video, we're gonna talk about all the specs, and then I'm gonna crawl all over them, and we will just check out all of the neat features on these all-electric off-roaders. Let's do it. And if you're just here for the high points, here come the fast facts. And at the end of this video, I asked the CEO of Bollinger Motors how much these vehicles are going to cost and when they'll be available. So make sure you stay tuned to hear his answer. It's been a while since we've seen these. I was actually at the reveal in New York City, so I mean, for me, this is coming back and seeing them once again, right? So I guess the very first thing is what's changed between then and now. I mean, then it was really just like a concept, whereas now it's production intent. Is that correct?
Yeah, we call this a beta prototype. Okay. So we're most of the way from our concept, which is the B1 two-door, which you saw before, to production. So there's a lot more production level components on it. The body design, while it looks the same, is one step closer to what you'd be making on a low volume hand assembled style line.
So CJ, another super unique feature you guys have here is that pass-through for any long materials, right? So how about you show me how that works?
Sure, yeah, the pass-through obviously runs all the way from the front of the vehicle at the front gate. So you simply open the front gate.
And you know what, just so I can stop you, besides the pass-through, of course, you just got a frunk too, right? If you got stuff you want to jam in there, there's tons of storage on this vehicle.
That's right, yeah, and it's fully lockable as well.
Yeah, it's a frunk. That's a frunk, it's a front trunk.
That's right, yeah, so you've got plenty of room to store things up here. You can also power your power tools from the front as well.
Gotcha, oh, you got a couple plugs in there?
Yeah, 110 volt AC outlets here.
Beautiful. I did notice a few other ones, so we'll show them off as we move back. So the next door there is on the interior, right?
Yeah, so you have the pass-through door through the firewall area. So that's something you can open up right from the driver's seat. It just slides in there and stows away.
Alrighty, and then next step is going to be this mid-gate back here.
Correct.
So you guys will see right here, the whole back end of this truck here opens up.
So there's on each side of the vehicle. Open up the glass as well.
You need me to hop around and go, there it is. Perfect.
Side there. And then you can just lower the gate down.
And that basically fits right into the floor?
Correct, yeah, it all lays down level so that you've got a single plane through the entire truck.
Gotcha, and then of course,
just open up the tailgate. And there you have it. You can put a 16-foot piece of lumber through the vehicle with the gates closed, and then as far as you want to go.
Once it's open, as far as you're comfortable with, right?
Or get some flags on the telephone pole.
Of course. Well, yeah, that's really neat, man. That's a smart little feature. And like I mentioned, you got some more plugs back here in the bed. Those are all 110 as well?
Yeah, and we do have the capability for 220 volt output.
Okay, nice. So you could even run some big tools if you needed to.
Correct.
And are those all the plugs on the truck? Did I miss any?
No, there's actually one underneath the pass-through door in the driver's compartment as well.
Oh, gotcha, so there's one on the inside.
Correct.
All right, very cool. And then I noticed the little storage cubbies here in the wheel wells.
Yeah.
Let's go take a look at those. And then if there's any other hidden storage, you can show me that too.
There's some lockable storage in here. It's sealed, so feel free to put any kind of cold beverages in there as well. If you
gotcha. All right, I know what you engineers are using it for then.
Yep, and there's also some under-seat storage area as well. Once you pop the seats out, we have some cubbies down here behind the rear seats.
Gotcha, so the rear seats are removable then?
They are.
So if you don't want them, you just pop them right out of there?
Yes, they are. You can pull them out.
Okay.
Yep, and that, if you want to, since the bed here is only 6 feet long, but if you remove the seats and the rear console and open up the mid-gate, then you can put a full 4x8 sheet with the tailgate closed.
Gotcha. Okay, so you really can kind of reconfigure this thing in a bunch of ways to make it work for you.
Absolutely.
Neat. And can you talk me through, first of all, what the transmission is, but then how the entire gearing works?
So this is the transmission or the gearbox that's mounted in between the frame rails of the vehicle.
Okay.
The electric motor is mounted here along with the controller or inverter, which is mounted coaxially to that. And that's a 300 horsepower, brushless permanent magnet AC motor.
Okay.
So that goes into an input gear with an idler to increase center distance around the motor diameter. So there's an initial reduction, and that goes into our 2-speed reduction here, and that is similar to like a high-low range on a transfer case.
Sure.
So it's meant to be shifted at low speed.
Okay.
And this is the shift actuator on top, so you can, just by simply moving the drive position on the column shift, you can go from high to low range, and that's about a 2-to-1 torque split, approximately. And that goes into the differential reduction here, and that adds another approximately 2-to-1 gear ratio, and we have a electronic locking differential, and that's both on the front and rear axles.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's just actuated by a toggle switch on the dashboard.
Okay.
Since the front gearbox and the rear gearbox are not linked by a transfer case.
Sure, like a typical truck, yeah.
Yeah, so there's some, it's both a, at first it's a hindrance because it acts like an all-wheel drive vehicle if you run it open, but it's actually very beneficial in that you can program, the vehicle to use the ABS wheel speed sensors and then monitor wheel speeds front to rear and then split torque.
Each wheel, of course, because you're electric and you have the power at each motor, you can split torque however you want it.
You can, exactly. So it does give us some unique opportunity there.
Okay, interesting. So it goes through this system and then it gets to the portal axle. Can you talk me through the portals too?
Sure, yeah. So this is about a 1.94 to 1 reduction helical gear set. It's about a 4 7/16 or so center distance. So that gives you that much more ground clearance by obviously, moving the CV axle up. You can then raise the location of the lower ball joint as well. So right now we have the control arm about wheel center. There's a lot of other vehicles that use portal axles that don't take full advantage of the ground clearance benefits.
Yeah.
You'll usually see the ball joint, in a typical knuckle configuration. We've actually increased that height, so we have not only 15.5 inches of ground clearance at the vehicle skid plate, but that's all the way to the tires.
Gotcha. Excellent. So, I think this naturally leads us into the suspension. Can you talk us through the suspension too? Because you mentioned 15.5 inches of ground clearance. Is that when the vehicle is fully lowered? Because it can also raise itself. Is that right? Correct,
yeah. So the suspension has 10 inches of total wheel travel.
Wow. Okay.
So you say 15.5,
Gotcha.
That's a programmed ride height, but you can change that at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes up to 20 or down as low as 10.
And it's pneumatic, right? It's just air, or?
Well, it's a hydropneumatic system.
Okay.
So the spring itself, rather than a coil spring or a leaf spring, is air. And the reason we do that is because it's a Class 3 vehicle. Mm-hmm. So the GVW is just over 10,000 pounds.
Yeah, 10,001, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
just over.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you wanted to be able to operate this at that kind of weight, you need to have really stiff springs.
Yeah.
So in a normal, steel spring vehicle,
sure,
it rides like a dump truck.
Totally, yeah.
So this vehicle, since it only weighs around 5,000 to start off, we have to take advantage of the progressive spring rate that an air spring gives you. So at lightly loaded condition, you can operate and crawl over rocks nicely or just drive down the highway.
Gotcha.
But when you add more weight, by compressing the gas chamber inside the accumulator, that increases the spring rate as travel increases. So that way the ride quality in terms of not only spring rate, but the damping also is adjustable based on load.
Nice. So it's trying to be best of both worlds, right? With nothing on it, it's comfortable, and then you can load up tons of weight, right?
That's right. It should ride very similar unloaded versus at fully laden condition.
Gotcha. So then working with those numbers, does that mean it has basically a 5,000 pound payload rating? Is there an actual number you've prescribed to payload, or?
Yeah, the actual number will be based on the final vehicle weight.
Sure.
But it'll be around 5,000.
Okay, very interesting. And then leading off that, towing, is there a tow rating that's out there yet?
Sure. Right now it's 7,500 pounds.
Okay.
and that'll be driven by the gross combined vehicle weight rating as well. So the final vehicle weight will drive
Sure,
that.
it'll change a little bit. And is that, are you planning to verify using J2807?
Yes, we'll be doing Davis Dam.
Cool.
That's what we're testing too.
That's the plan. You haven't done it yet, though? That's just the plan for now?
That's the plan for now.
Gotcha.
But we'll be doing quite a bit more testing later in the year.
For sure. Okay, how about we jump inside? I mean, I think the interior of this thing's really interesting, and we had talked a little earlier about the glass on the roof. I would love to see those roof panels and how they peel off, if you could show us one of those.
There we go. That's a little easier one. So you pull that down.
Yeah.
And then
you don't got to take it right off. If you can just lift it off just for demonstration purposes. All right, very cool.
you lift that up.
And then you'd keep going up and those hinges would just pop right off, right? I see.
These two tanks come out.
Perfect.
And that would pop out like that.
Okay, easy enough. So, I mean, I noticed that they're all tinted. Was heat ever an issue when you guys were testing with this the glass roof?
You know, we've done quite a bit of testing with the initial two-door vehicle, like out in Moab and in Hurricane, Utah.
Okay.
Some areas that are
some hot places.
Not much shade.
Yeah.
And really, the heat never gave us a huge issue.
Cool.
But there will be options for having solid aluminum panels.
Ah, okay.
And there'll be options for like a soft top as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
All out of accessory type items that we're working on right now.
10-4. Gotcha. Very cool. So you have some different choices.
You will. Absolutely.
So guys, if you haven't figured this out, certainly simplicity was one of the things Bollinger was going after, especially on this interior. So one of the neat things, check this out. That's your air vent right there, and you got 1, 2, 3 air vents all the way along. If you want it on your face, point it at your face. You want it on the window, roll it over, point it at the window. You want it off, turn it all the way over, and it's gone. That's just, you know, a real simple piece of engineering and design, and it works and it looks cool. Now, a couple other simple things. The windows here don't go up and down. They go forward and back. So pinch and slide. And then one of the best things is, over here on the left, you see that button down there? Just like old school cars, that is the high beam. So you just use your left foot, click it on, and your high beams come on. The battery capacity here, and talk maybe a little bit about the motors.
Sure. It's a 120 kilowatt hour battery pack, which should give us approximately a 200 mile EPA highway range. The motors are a 15,000 RPM, around 300 horsepower a piece motor, so that should give us around a 615 horsepower peak, and that's 668 foot-pounds of torque as well. So very torquey for a very small compact package. And there's one at the front and the rear, so for our all-time all-wheel drive system. So with a 120 kilowatt hour pack, you're talking, depending on how low a charge you're at, it could be 8-9 hours or so.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, charged for 80%. And then the DC fast charge capability it has as well, that's up to 200 amps.
Yeah.
So that could be, you know, an hour and a half or so, depending on how far depleted you are. Nice cargo light feature.
Yeah, that is a nice light. Yeah, so I mean, the interior here is obviously super unique compared to anything else you see out there in the market. So first of all, why don't you talk us through these switch banks down here, and then I do have one other question about the gauges, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
Sure. So yeah, let's go through the switches here on the right of the wheel.
Sure. So the B1 and B2 share a common dashboard panel, and they're all, you know, simple bat toggle switches, which keeps with the design aesthetic and is very simplistic.
Yeah, safe to say that you guys were going for that, right? To sort of keep it simple, stupid method, because everything on this thing, it sort of really plays into that idea, right?
Mm-hmm. And there's only what you need.
Perfect.
So on the right-hand side, closer to the steering wheel, we have more of the off-road type switches and ones you wouldn't use quite as often,
okay.
Such as the sway bar locks.
Gotcha.
So the vehicle has hydraulic disconnectable sway bars. So rather than a standard steel bar, it uses a cross-linking method between each wheel to stabilize or unstabilize the vehicle for, you know, maneuvering over rocks or difficult obstacles.
And there's front and rear sway bars.
Correct, yeah,
Gotcha.
rear and front.
Gotcha.
Then there's the raise lower switch for the suspension, so you can raise it up or down.
Gotcha. And are there different levels you can do there, or is it just basically up and down?
It'll be user programmable.
Okay, so you can actually set that height.
Correct.
Very cool.
Yep. And then you've got the air conditioning, the blower fan, and the temperature switch. So it's kind of like a hold up to increase or down and decrease.
Meaning in the cab?
In the cabin, correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. But there's no actual readout that tells you like 68 degrees or something like that. It's just up and down.
Our message center is over here on the left side, and
okay.
you have a toggle button that you can cycle through.
Okay. Yeah, and then I know there's a switch bank down there on the left of the wheel. What are all those switches?
There's a traction control on and off switch on the right hand side.
Cool. So you can shut it totally off. It's fully defeatable.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. And then our 2 differential lock switches.
Gotcha. And they're individually
controllable front and rear.
Cool.
Yes. And then the windshield wiper squirter, and the windshield wiper, and our headlight switch.
Okay, simple enough.
For the low beam, that is. And then the high beam is your old school.
Oh, nice. You got it on the foot.
Yeah.
Very cool. And actually, I mean, you bring up old school. I couldn't help but notice my dad's got a 71 Chev. And I mean, the shift there looks very much like what's in his 71 Chev. So was there some sort of, connections you wanted to make to kind of old school Detroit? Or is that just kind of happened? Or
it keeps with the, once you get in the Bronco, Land Rover, Scout, 71 Chevy, it's hard to not look like all of them or a little bit of everything at once.
Sure, yeah.
And to keep with, what's available for, steering columns, that's a very difficult part to source. So this is a classic design
Very cool.
for that.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. It makes it more interesting.
And it does.
So now something else that caught my eye that I couldn't help but see is you have a tach. And that just seems very weird for an electric vehicle. Plus, what is it rail up to there? 15,000?
Yeah.
So what specifically is that measuring? That's measuring the RPM of the electric motors, or how's that working?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it'd be an average motor speed. The real measurement of how much energy you're using is current. So we've also toyed around with the idea that you might be able to program the tach to also read out in current draw. So,
okay,
so it's
interesting.
kind of like the you've probably seen like the green bars in some of the
Sure, yeah, of course.
more electric modern vehicles. Could do the same thing.
Gotcha. So based on that too, does that mean they will spin up to 15,000 RPM? Or
Yes, that's correct.
I've been so obsessed, everybody, with the B2 pickup truck since I got here. Forgot to show you the B1. So this is actually the first concept that rolled out. Now the wheelbase here is considerably shorter than on that truck, and the one other difference is this entire rear roof section. It has the same glass panels up top, but this whole rear roof section pops up a lot like a Jeep Wrangler, so you can really get that open air experience. Now besides that, basically everything else here is the same. There's some little differences. I mean, the switch gear has changed from then until now. This truck's got a proper stereo in it, but this concept is also a little bit older, so I would actually take what's in the B2 as being probably closer to what we'll see when this thing goes to production. There is something else though here on the B1 I want to show you. So you get a couple of seats in the back, but they're little jump seats, and you can actually fold the top fronts down, and then they move up like that, and they sit right along there, and they actually open up a little bed back here. So even if you go for the SUV, you're getting the choice of having a small bed behind the driver and passenger, although you do have to give up your rear seats. And if you need one more example of keeping it simple, look at this center console. It's got a wooden top on it. It's bolted right into the floor there, and then you do have a bit of storage in this small little metal bin here. Top pops open, and that is what you get. Again, keeping it super simple. So Robert, we've been crawling all over your creations here, and I mean, it strikes me that obviously off-roading was a key attribute that you wanted to build into these machines. The numbers are pretty incredible. So I guess, you must have seen a need in the market that wasn't being met. Is that sort of where the B1 and B2 sort of came from? As you said, nothing out there is working for me, this is something I want to build myself? Or sort of how did the idea come about?
Yeah. When we built the first one, the two-door, a few years ago now, I guess all the off-road capabilities were really engineered and brought into it by the engineers, by Carl and CJ and the rest of them. So they really know the off-road world. So portal gear hubs and all the stuff that CJ took you through, that was their genius on it. I just wanted a truck that originally just wanted to have it be like 50-50 weight distribution and all-wheel drive all the time and a lot of ground clearance, and then they figured out how to make it amazing. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I wanted it for the storage capabilities and just being able to use it in snow and mud. like on a general daily basis, like on a farm or, out in the woods kind of stuff. And then, the incredible additional stuff that they brought to it for like real off-roading is, they can tell you a million things about that. But I wanted it basically on my farm just to use in the snow and mud.
Gotcha. And then I guess the question then is, why all electric? I mean, out on the farm, was that something that was kind of driving you to go EV or?
Yeah, I guess because that was mostly a timing thing. It was just like, well, if we're starting a car company in 2014 at the time it was, 2015 is when we really started, when Carl came on board. But back then I was just like, well, if you're starting a car company now, I saw like everything's going to go electric, so why do that and then have to worry about it later,
Sure, yeah.
And then also the electric just completely allowed you to have a completely different kind of architecture right off the bat. So all the stuff like the storage, the pass-through, and all that kind of stuff you couldn't do, obviously.
Absolutely.
With an ICE. So electric just allowed us to kind of just start from scratch and have a clean sheet of paper.
And I think it's an interesting juxtaposition you have here, because you have the electric powertrain, you have the portals, you have all this kind of complicated engineering, but when you actually look at the vehicle, it's simple as can be. Like everything inside is dead simple. Was that exactly what you were going for as well?
Yeah. It's funny because there's almost like two halves of the world coming together, right?
Yeah.
So we have a lot of our followers who love the truck just because of the way it looks and the feel and that kind of stuff. So that's more like a emotional passion kind of thing. And then you have underneath it all the high-tech stuff that is making it all happen. So it's kind of almost like right brain, left brain kind of things coming together.
Yeah.
So so it's I wouldn't say necessarily simple because there's a lot going on there, but we wanted to keep clean lines, one design thing, because it's really hard, I think, when you, especially with something this complicated and this involved, to have the end product be kind of like one thought. So when you see the truck, it's one design look, inside and out. There's just one overarching principle to it. And that was very, very hard to do because you had to just keep like cutting away the stuff that was getting in the way of that. So it's very difficult to do something simple.
Yeah, absolutely it is. But you climb in the interior and it's striking at how simple it is, but it's great. I mean, the air vents, I love the air vents. Like just being able to roll them like that. It's an easy little thing, but I think that it's, it's clever and it works.
Right. Yeah, and most of our stuff too came out of just need. Like that air vent came out of the whole need that we didn't have space for the transfer box for the air inside the dash. So we're like, let's just make a transfer on top where you can do it yourself.
Gotcha.
That way, instead of having a switch and a whole big kunk, happening inside somewhere. So we just put it on top.
Very neat.
Yeah.
So then my last questions, I'm not sure if you're going to have answers for, but it's the big ones everyone wants to know, which is still, what's it going to cost and when's it going to be available?
Right. Both of those announcements are coming out later this year, so we'll let you know in advance of when we'll have that. But basically still wrapping up a lot of the bill of material costs and manufacturing, who our final manufacturing partner is. We've gone like a little while looking into manufacturing it ourselves and building a factory.
Yeah.
And we just thought that's going to add so much time and money and learning curve. So we're going to the experts on that as well. So those will kind of come out almost at the same time because our manufacturing partner will help us with the BOM and the building of it. So we hope to have those soon. And I know people have been wanting that for years.
Of course.
But the amount of work to get not just prototypes made, but just new vendors and moving to Michigan and and all this stuff is just making it. It just takes an incredible amount of time to understand what you got, to have those answers. So I appreciate everyone waiting, but
of course
soon.
And so is there a production partner in place that you're just not mentioning yet, or that's still kind of being worked out?
That's still being worked out. We have a few in mind, but and a few that we're heavily talking to, and that will be great. They're all in the U.S. We still want to make it in the U.S. with as much USA-made materials, and so we'll hopefully announce who it is soon.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. And then as a Canadian myself, any plans to come to Canada?
Yep. So it follows Class 3 regulations for the U.S. There's a similar class for Canada.
Yeah.
It's almost exactly
Once
the
you're
same.
regulated here, you're pretty much regulated there.
Yeah, so we're definitely looking there. Our sales director, Chet, is looking for dealers. We're going through a dealer net, like existing independent dealers.
Cool.
For sales and service, which make it easy to have something near the people who buy it, right? So we're looking into Canada as well. And then it's also can be follow regulations for the EU and Australia. So eventually we're going to...
So eventually it's going around the world. That's the plan.
Eventually,
Very cool. And then I guess my last question, it's a question I love to ask is, especially as the man who came up with this, what's the one feature on this thing you love? What's the one that stands out that's just your favorite thing you think people need to know about? Is there one that comes to mind?
One feature. Well, I personally love the pass-through. I always talk about that.
The pass-through is cool, man. The pass-through it's super unique, right? There's nothing else like out there right now.
So that's the one physical feature on it. But generally, the whole thing of that, it all came together as one solid answer to what's missing in all the trucks that's out there, and it came from everyone on the team and working on it all over all this time, and it's just like it's one great multi-tool. Really, is what I love about it.
So. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Robert. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming in.